Revealed. Incredible story of a 58-year-old mother overcoming 36-year-old son's shocking betrayal. In the quaint, sun-soaked town of Maplewood, the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the chatter of familiar faces at the diner. Helen, a vibrant 58-year-old waitress, poured her heart into every cup. With a smile that could brighten the cloudiest day, she served regulars who knew her story well. After all, she had spent her life raising Jake, her only son, with the kind of love and determination that made family the heartbeat of their small community. But today, everything felt different. The clinking of forks and quiet laughter were drowned out by whispers, a suffocating cloud of tension saturating the air. Just moments ago, Helen had received a call that shattered her heart. Jake has embezzled funds meant for the community center. Her neighbor's voice trembled, filled with disbelief. Helen's stomach twisted. It was a betrayal as sharp as a knife, slicing through years of painstaking effort and pride. Jake, the bright star she had nurtured with sacrifices and midnight prayers, had fallen into a chasm she never saw coming. To the diner, she served plates of food while her mind reeled. The same patrons who once cheered for Jake's accomplishments now whispered behind closed hands, their eyes a mix of pity and scorn. Helen felt like a fragile vase shattered on a concrete floor. Each smile she managed to muster was like a thin mask, barely holding up against the weight of shame. A local man, Mr. Thompson, nodded at her as he sipped his coffee. "You've always done right by that boy, Helen," he said. But the reassurance felt hollow. Helen's chest tightened, and tears threatened her composure. How could she face the community? The ones who had rooted for Jake, who believed in him as she had. Now, they were wrestling with the truth of his choices, and Helen felt caught in the middle. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, home felt like a battleground. Plates clattered as Helen confronted Jake, who slumped against the kitchen counter, shadows shadowing the faint smile that once lit his face. "Why, Jake?" Her voice cracked, breaking open the dam of unspoken fears. As he spoke, his words were laced with bitterness. He felt suffocated under the pressure of expectations, trapped in the gilded cage Helen had crafted for him. Each confession was a dagger, revealing dreams she had inadvertently stifled. Their shared past became a haunting echo, full of pain and missed connections. The love they once had began to fray, as the truth lay heavy between them. Small-town life had been so predictable, yet neither had realized how it could unravel. As the annual harvest festival approached, promising a chance for healing, Helen stood on a precipice, torn between the hope for redemption and the creeping dread of losing her son forever. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, she uncovered a troubling connection. The very man Jake had been working with had ulterior motives of his own, a betrayal layered on betrayal. With her heart racing, Helen realized the festival would not just be a test of community, but a crucible for their relationship, each choice splintering the space between them further. Hope flickered dimly, yet she couldn't shake the fear. Could a mother ever truly forgive what felt irreparable? The day of the harvest festival arrived, the air buzzing with excitement and the smell of autumn apples drifting through the streets of Maplewood. Children darted about, their laughter slicing through the tension that had gripped Helen for days. She stood by the diner window, watching the world outside, her heart heavy. Their community buzzed with anticipation, while she faced an internal storm. How could she bear the weight of it all? Helen donned her favorite apron, the one with the vibrant sunflowers. A simple piece of fabric that once made her feel warm and inviting now felt like a shroud. The festival's atmosphere did little to quell the anxiety weighing on her. She turned to the diner door, where customers trickled in, some exchanging casual hellos. While the whispers of Jake's betrayal lingered like smoke in the air, the festival's festivities began in full swing outside. Brightly colored stalls lined the streets, children bobbing for apples while families enjoyed carnival games. Helen forced a smile upon entering the thrumming heart of the event, though each step felt like an uphill battle. She twisted her wedding ring nervously, a habit that calmed her but couldn't mask her dread. Across the crowd, she spotted Jake. Taller than she remembered, he looked lost in the midst of it all, a storm brewing behind his eyes. She couldn't ignore the fleeting glimpse of hope that flickered in her chest. Could they reconcile today? The heartbeat of the festival caught her off guard, stirring memories of happier times when they would dance among the pumpkins, laughter echoing through the air, a family fully intact. She approached in small steps, longing to close the gap that felt like an unspeakable chasm. As she reached him, the distance seemed to stretch further. "Jake, can we talk?" Her voice trembled as she spoke, registering the change in his demeanor. He glanced down, shame etching lines across his young face. "I don't want to ruin today, Mom," he replied, his eyes darting around, avoiding hers. "But this day matters to us, doesn't it? It's a chance to be together again, to rebuild." Her voice faltered, strong emotions welling up like a dam ready to burst. At a flicker of something not anger, but sadness flashed across his face. "How can we when everything I did is hanging over us? I didn't mean it to go this far." His confession hung in the air like a ghost, palpable and unnerving. Helen took a deep breath. "Then let us make it right together. You're still my son. I love you." She clung to that hope, even though the words felt like a delicate thread, ready to snap. Across the square, people were beginning to gather for the festival's opening ceremony. Faces bright with excitement, they cheered for the annual crowning of the Harvest Queen. Yet, Helen felt every cheer seep through her like nails, the laughter of familiar friends a reminder of what was at stake. As the ceremony began, a moment of stirring music played. Helen's heart raced. Could they really move forward, or was this festivity merely a backdrop to their unraveling lives? She looked at Jake, and for the first time, there was a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. But just as she thought a breakthrough was within reach, a figure emerged from the crowd. The man Jake had worked with, the very embodiment of the betrayal that had shattered their lives. Helen's heart plummeted. What was he doing here? The air thickened as anticipation built around them. This was not just about the festival anymore, it was about reckoning and redemption. With every breath, Helen felt the weight of her love for Jake threatening to fall beneath the thrum of fear. How would this confrontation unfold? Would it finalize their break or offer a chance for real healing? As the mystery man approached, every nerve in her body stood on edge. The next few moments could change everything. The man stepped closer, and Helen's breath caught in her throat. His confident stride and casual smirk felt like daggers aimed straight at her heart. She knew his name, Matt Hadley, Jake's former mentor, the one who had dragged her son into a mess she struggled to comprehend. "Didn't he expect to see you here, Helen?" he said, his voice smooth, but there was a smugness that made her skin crawl. He had the gall to smile, as if the entire town didn't know what he had a hand in. "Matt," Helen replied, her tone clipped, trying hard to mask the confusion swirling in her mind. She felt Jake tense beside her, an electric current charging between them. "Jake and I had some good times," he continued, shooting a sideways glance at her son. "Just boys being boys, right?" His casual dismissal of the situation felt like salt in an open wound. "Stop it," Jake shouted, stepping forward. The pain and frustration in his voice echoed with an unexpected fury that took Helen by surprise. "This isn't a game. You can't just waltz back into our lives and act like everything is fine." Matt's smirk faltered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. "I didn't come here to fight. Just thought you might like to see what endings look like." Helen's stomach sank. She felt paralyzed, caught between her son and this man who still felt like a storm cloud hovering overhead. A crowd began to gather, their eyes shifting between the three of them, whispers buzzing like bees. She could practically feel the judgment hanging in the air. "Jake," she said softly, finding strength in her voice. "Maybe we should just know, Mom. Not like this." He glanced back at her with an intensity that made her heart ache. "You deserve to hear this. You both need to stop pretending." The bluntness of his words was like a slap, but it held a raw truth that Helen couldn't ignore. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Everything I did, that wasn't just me. You know how he is." Jake shot a glare at Matt, who leaned back, looking amused. "I got mixed up with the wrong crowd. They pulled me in, and I got scared. Matt only ever cared about himself." "Is that really what you think?" Matt shot back, finally losing his charm. You think you're the only one responsible for your choices? And just like that, the tension snapped, leaving them all vulnerable. Jake was wrestling with regret, the fear of his own decisions evident in his eyes. Helen felt it too, the fear that had gripped both of them for too long, strangling the love they shared. "I love you," Helen blurted out to her son, feeling the desperate need to reach him through the chaos. "No matter what has happened, we can face it together. Can we?" Jake's voice cracked, breaking Helen's heart. He looked to Matt, then back to her. "Because everything feels dark right now. I thought I could fix it myself." But Matt chuckled, a mean laugh filled with arrogance. "You can't fix what's already broken. You're just prolonging the inevitable." And that's when Helen saw it, a flicker of defiance in Jake's eyes. "No, I won't let this be the end." His words were laced with bitterness but bore an undeniable determination. The whole atmosphere shifted. Around them, the festival thrummed with life, unaware of the struggle unfolding in their midst. But here, in this moment, it was just the three of them, a combustible mixture of betrayal, love, and a desperate need for truth. Could Helen be the glue that held them together, even in the face of such overwhelming odds? Or would the day that should have celebrated their community instead unravel everything they had worked toward? Suddenly, the town mayor stepped on stage, his booming voice cutting through the tension. "Welcome, everyone, to our harvest festival." Helen felt the sinking sensation that today could either mark a new beginning or seal their fate. The stakes were rising, shadows creeping in at the edges of her mind. What would it take for her family to heal? And what secrets were still waiting to be uncovered amidst the chaos? The mayor's voice ricocheted off the festival tents, snapping Helen back to a reality underlined by noise and laughter, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing in her heart. She couldn't pull her gaze from Matt, who maintained a confident demeanor despite the heat of the moment. The jovial sounds of the harvest festival felt distant, as if muffled by something heavy and dark. "Jake," she said, searching her son's face for any sign of reassurance. "We can talk about this later away from all this." "No," Jake insisted, clenching his fists as if he were battling more than just words. "This is our moment, Mom. I want to back down." "Not anymore." Helen admired his courage. At the same time, it terrified her. The words Jake had shared, the reckless choices he made, they shadowed their relationship like a cloud. But how could they move forward if the past loomed large as a barrier? Matt raised an eyebrow, crossing his arms. "You want a moment? Now that's rich." His mocking tone ignited a fire in Helen's chest. "Stop," she shouted, her voice louder than she intended. The crowd fell silent, their eyes narrowing on the scene unfolding before them. Her pulse raced, every person in the throng now a witness to their struggle. A mixture of shame and resolve washed over her. This was not how she envisioned their day. "Honestly, Helen," Matt continued, pushing buttons he knew existed, "this is more about you than you'd like to admit." Keeping him locked away like some fragile treasure isn't helping him grow. Jake's eyes flared with fury. "You don't get a say in this. You destroyed my trust." He stepped closer to Matt, a protective instinct emerging, even if it was blind with anger. "Don't think for a second that you're off the hook either," Matt shot back, his voice sharp. "Your mistakes will define you unless you face them." Those words hit harder than any weapon. Helen felt Jake's hurt deeply, as if it spread through her veins. She wanted to shield him from every stab of guilt that pierced his heart, every regret that tainted their past. "Enough," she yelled, stepping between the two men, her hands trembling at her sides. "Matt, I don't care what you think anymore. Jake and I will mend this. Together." Matt's smile faded, replaced by a hard expression. "Good luck with that," he said, contempt dripping from each word. "You'll need it." The breath she took in felt electric. Could she really bring her son back from the brink? "Jake, you can't give up on yourself. We are more than our mistakes," she said, her voice steadying with each word. "This isn't the end. It's a chance to start afresh." Those simple phrases hung in the air, a fragile thread binding them. As the mayor launched into an enthusiastic welcome, the festival around them began to pulse back to life, children laughing, music swelling from the nearby stage. But inside, Helen felt the world narrowing, clenching around the three of them. Jake's defiance flickered but began to falter. What if I can't fix it?" His question echoed, breaking the fragile peace. Helen's heart twisted. What if you can? Behind them, the crowd watched, waiting for a resolution, breaths held in expectant silence. Time slowed, each heartbeat matching her rising tension. Could this moment indicate the end of their suffering? Or would it be the catalyst that ignited a firestorm of remnants from before? The question loomed heavy in the air. The world turned blurry, but one thing was clear. The choices they made now would ripple through their lives like waves crashing against the shore. What truths lay ahead, waiting to unearth even deeper betrayals? The unyielding silence around them was deafening. The atmosphere of the festival, once filled with the sweet aroma of caramel apples and the cheerful chatter of families, now seemed to pulse with tension. Helen's gaze was desperately searching Jake's, but the light in his eyes dimmed, masked by clouds of doubt and fear. Mom, Jake's voice trembled, uncertainty creeping in. I don't even know who I am anymore. Helen's heart sank. The words hung between them like a chasm, deep and daunting. How could she bridge that gap? You're a good person, Jake. You always have been. Mistakes don't define you, they're just part of the journey. We'll find our way back together. Matt stepped closer, his shadow looming over them like a dark cloud. What a lovely fairy tale, Helen. But life isn't that simple. You can't just wave a magic wand and fix everything. Shut up, Matt. Jake shot back, his face pinched with anger. You think you know me? You don't get to play the role of the wise guy here. You're as much a part of this mess as anyone else. Helen's resolve hardened. This is enough. Today is supposed to be about celebration, and I refuse to let you drag us down. Her voice was fierce, trembling with the weight of her emotions. The crowd began to murmur, sensing the crackling energy between them. She could see the faces, a blend of concern and curiosity. Let us talk away from here. Please, Jake. Just for a moment. He hesitated, glancing around as the festival music flickered uncertainly in the background. What do you want me to say? That I'm broken? I already know that. No, she stepped closer, letting a sense of calm wash over her. Just tell me how you feel. We need to communicate, to be honest with each other. It's the only way we'll heal. There was a flicker in Jake's eyes. I'm scared, Mom. Scared that I can't change. Scared that you'll look at me differently, Jake. She reached for his hand, holding it tightly. I could never look at you differently. I love you no matter what. I'm here. We're in this together. Behind them, the laughter of children and the distant ringing of games started to return, pulling at the edges of their heavy moment. But inside, a storm still raged. Matt scoffed, rolling his eyes. You think this will magically make everything okay? Love isn't a solution, Helen. It's a word. Maybe, she said, fighting the urge to lash out. But it's the first step. If we can face this together, that is our strength. A moment stretched between them, filled with tension and possibility. Helen's grip on Jake's hand grew tighter, her heart a mix of longing and hope. What if this small act could be the spark they desperately needed? What if today, buried beneath layers of pain, they could finally begin to heal? Jake let out a shaky breath, his anger slowly dissipating. I just want to trust again. I don't want to be lost in the chaos. The mayor's voice broke through, cheerful and buoyant, yet it felt distant, failing to penetrate their cocoon of vulnerability. What if we try together? She whispered, willing every ounce of conviction into the words that Jake stared deep into her eyes. Helen felt the moment shift, like a feather touching water, ripples spreading softly, but undeniably. But doubts still lingered, lurking just beneath the surface. Matt's presence persisted, a shadow they couldn't escape. What if reconciling with Jake would bring back more than just their relationship? What if it awakened the chaos they both thought they had buried? With the festival spinning back to life, Helen felt a small flicker of resolve inside her. Maybe today could mark the beginning, but dangers still loomed ahead. Would they find their footing, or would the past drag them back under? The thought danced at the edges of her mind, igniting her fear once more. She took a breath. The hardest part was yet to come. What awaited them just beyond this fragile moment? Helen felt the weight of her own heartbeat echoing in her ears, a stark reminder that emotions were raw and unpredictable, much like the crowd swirling around them. For a brief moment, she pulled Jake into a quiet corner of the fairgrounds, away from the vibrant chaos. The colors seemed duller here, as if the brighter world beyond was a reminder of a happiness they were struggling to reclaim. Talk to me, she urged softly, her voice almost a whisper. What is going on in that head of yours? Jake ran a hand through his hair, frustration clear on his face. I can't shake this feeling that I'm a failure, Mom. I thought I was better. His voice cracked as he spoke, and she could see the fight in his eyes wavering. You're not a failure. You're learning, just like everyone else. Helen stepped closer, wanting him to feel her presence, her unwavering support. You've always been brave, Jake. It's okay to stumble as long as you keep getting back up. You need to let yourself feel. Matt's abrupt laugh cut through the air, taunting. Learning? More like falling flat on your face. What a lovely lesson, Helen. Jake's fists clenched. Enough, Matt. This is between my mom and me. You're just making it worse. The tension surged, filling the air, thick and heavy. Helen turned to Matt, desperation tinged with anger. We're trying to work through this. Please, just leave us alone. His casual demeanor dropped, revealing a hint of vulnerability. Fine. But just remember, holding on to this love isn't going to change anything. As Matt stepped back into the crowd, Helen forced herself to refocus on Jake. The weight of his turmoil pulled them both deeper into the emotional abyss. She could see it, the doubt, the internal battle wrestling within him. Mom, Jake's voice softened. What if I can't change? What if I just stay lost? The question hung in the air, a heavy burden that both frightened and compelled her. Change is scary, sweetie. But staying lost isn't an option we should entertain. We have to believe in the possibility. She reached out, brushing his cheek tenderly. Look at me. I believe in you. He inhaled deeply, the warmth of her words searching, finding the cracks in his armor. Something flickered behind his eyes, a flame of doubt slowly being edged out by a spark of hope. Just then, a child burst through the crowd, giggling as she spun in delight, tugging at her mother's hand. Helen watched the little girl, unable to suppress a smile at innocence untarnished by the heaviness of life. See that? She mused. No fear, just belief in the moment. Jake caught her gaze, and for the first time, a small smile began to twitch at the corners of his lips. I wish I had that kind of confidence. You can, she said, feeling the tug of warmth spreading in her chest. You have it in you. It's there, you just need to find it again. But before he could respond, Matt was back, the coldness in his eyes contrasting sharply with the tender moment they were sharing. You think a smile will solve everything, don't you? Stop it, Jake said, raising his voice. You don't get to dictate how I feel. Helen shook her head, the world around her blurring as the festival lights danced mockingly. Maybe the chaos you think you've buried isn't so easy to escape after all, Matt challenged, smirking. The words struck Jake harder than Helen had anticipated. She saw his resolve start to waver, uncertainty flickering through him again. Mom, Jake's plea was quiet but urgent. Hold on to this moment, Jake. Whatever chaos is ahead, together we can face it, she urged, though her own heart raced with fear. She could feel the ground beneath them unstable, a reminder that the battle was just beginning. What if they couldn't emerge stronger? What if Matt was right? These thoughts clouded her mind as she faced her son, the daylight fading into dusk around them. They needed to push through, but a shadow loomed large. Would they emerge stronger together, or would the past drag them all back down? The unanswered questions loitered, heavy and unyielding, just beyond their fragile grasp. Jake's breath hitched as the tension in the air thickened, leaving an ache in his chest. He looked around, the sounds of laughter and jubilant screams blending into an indistinct hum. They felt so far removed from the joy swirling around them. Jake, Helen prompted, her voice steadying him. What do you really want? He stared at the flickering lights from the Ferris wheel. I want to be happy, Mom. I want to feel like I can do this, like I can actually change. Helen saw the inner turmoil clash against hope reflected in his eyes. The fight within him was palpable. Then let's start with small steps, she suggested, her heart breaking for her son. What about the art contest? You've been working so hard on your piece. Did you give it a chance? He let out a bitter laugh. What is the point? It's going to be the same old story, losing. Losing isn't the end. You know that. It's just part of the journey. It's part of finding who you are, she pressed, wishing to ignite some spark of determination inside him. But Jake looked down, kicking at the gravel beneath his feet. It all feels pointless. Her heart ached, the years of battle against doubt flashing through her mind. What if I told you that 100 loses can lead to one massive win? He glanced up, searching her face for truth. You really believe that? I do, she said, leaning closer, sincerity binding her words. I've seen you grow, even when you didn't see it yourself. It's like a river, sometimes it swells, sometimes it narrows. But it keeps flowing. For a moment, she thought he might actually latch onto that. But then came the sharp sound of Matt's laughter snaking its way into their conversation. Well, here we go again, Matt said, rolling his eyes, his voice dripping with disdain. The river's flowing, but it's headed straight for a waterfall. Face it, Jake, your art is just a way to hide. The venom in Matt's tone curled like smoke, stinging both of them. Jake stiffened, hurt flashing across his features. Shut up, Matt. I'm sick of your negativity. Why? Because it's the truth? Matt retaliated, stepping closer. You'll always be the same scared kid pretending to be something you're not. Stop, Helen interjected, stepping between the two, her heart hammering. She could feel the intensity of the conflict wrap around them. I'm here, Jake, she reassured, her eyes darting to Matt. We are stronger than him, remember? Matt scoffed, crossing his arms. You've prepared to fail again, kid. Don't expect Mom to save you every time. Not every battle can be fought in silence, Helen murmured to Jake, the warmth of her hand resting on his shoulder. But remember, it's not about fighting him. It's about fighting for you. What if I fail again, Mom? Jake's voice cracked, a mix of vulnerability and anger coursing through him. What if I can't do it at all? In that moment, the noise from the fair seemed to fade away, leaving just the three of them in a world all their own. Helen cupped his face, meeting his gaze with unwavering strength. Then we face it together. We rise and fall together. You're not alone. Jake seemed to draw a steadying breath, the flicker of hope igniting into a flame. Okay, I'll try. But what if? Matt echoed mockingly. But this time, Jake turned to him. I will, Jake declared, and Helen sensed a shift in the air, a new determination settling amongst the lingering doubts. But the moment was still fragile. Just as Jake began to breathe easier, Helen felt an all too familiar question linger just beneath the surface, a shadow inching closer. What will the price be for their growth? And what happens the next time they stumble? The laughter around them felt distant, and the crowd resumed its joyful dance. But the trio stood, balancing on the precipice of something pivotal, the uncharted territory of hope and fear stretching before them. For Helen and Jake, the challenge was beginning to take form, and the question lingered. Could they truly break the cycle together, or would the past continue to haunt them? Jake took a deep breath, the weight of his resolve settling in his chest like a stone. For a moment, it felt as if time had paused. The laughter, the lights, the swirl of the fair faded from his mind, leaving just the thunderous beating of his heart. He turned back to Helen, her encouraging smile warming his insides. Let us see it. Then, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. Let us truly see if I can make this work. Matt rolled his eyes, arms crossed tight against his chest. You seriously think you can just magically become an artist overnight? It's not a fairy tale, Jake. But Jake was done listening to the taunts. He glanced at his mother, who nodded ever so slightly. It reminded him of the countless times she had been his anchor, even when he drifted into dark waters. I know it won't be easy, Jake said, voice low but steady. But it starts with trying, right? And I'll do it for myself. Helen's face lit up. That's the spirit, honey. It's about believing in your own worth. I don't need your help, Matt retorted, a sneer on his lips. What happens when you fail again, huh? Back to square one, just like last time. Jake felt a spark of anger, but chose to ignore it. This wasn't just for him, it was for his future, however uncertain it seemed. He could almost hear the rivalries in his mind, who had to be silenced for the moment to forge a clearer path ahead. With each passing second, feelings of doubt began to fade into a resolve stronger than any he had felt before. Let us head back to the community center, Helen suggested, her hand gently squeezing Jake's shoulder. You can show me what you've been working on. There's a lot of beauty in your struggle, and your art can tell that story. As they walked, Jake stole glances at the surrounds. The fair was buzzing with life. Kids raced past him, ice cream dripping down their hands. Their laughter almost felt foreign to him now, but under the surface, his own laughter began to bubble up, tentative but present. What if what I create is ugly? He murmured, pulling at the sleeves of his shirt, anxious. What if they all see through me? Then you're exactly where you need to be, Helen replied softly. Even the ugliest shapes can become something amazing with time and care. Jake wanted to believe her. With each step, the frustration he thought would consume him began to drain away, leaving only excitement. They entered the community center, the faint scent of paint and varnish permeating the air. Jake made his way to his easel, his heart racing as he unveiled the canvas that had been tucked away. It was an odd mixture of colors splashed in chaotic strokes, a depiction of his tangled emotions. While Helen whispered, taking in the canvas. But Jake's eyes darted around nervously. It's not finished. It's not good enough. Forget that. What matters is what it represents. This is a slice of your journey. Jake swallowed hard. It was a powerful reminder the journey he had lived, full of ups and downs and everything in between. As the two of them stood in awe of the artwork, the room felt charged, electric with possibility. That S when Matt's voice intruded again, mocking from the entrance. You really think that can compete with real artists? Then, with surprising boldness for himself, Jake turned and faced Matt, eyes blazing. I don't care about competing. I care about being true to myself. You can keep your negativity. I'm done listening. With that, a silence fell over the room. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. It was liberating, standing against the tide. But as laughter erupted behind him, a knot formed in his stomach. In the midst of newfound confidence, doubt lingered, whispering that maybe this moment was just a fluke. Would he really have the strength to follow through? Or would he shrink back into the shadows the first time things got tough? Helen caught the uncertainty in his eyes. No matter what, Jake, you're never alone. As those words sank in, Jake felt a spark ignite once again. He would need that flame, for the shadows were long and dark. The real challenge was just around the corner. What awaited him in the art contest? And how would he face the ghosts of his past when the time came? The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above, illuminating the walls of the community center as Jake stood frozen in front of his canvas. His heart raced, blood pulsing in his ears, drowning out the laughter and conversations around him. Doubt crept in like a thief in the night. Had he deluded himself into thinking he could be someone he wasn't? Helen took a step closer, sensing his apprehension. What are you feeling right now, Jake? She asked, her tone gentle yet probing. I don't know, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. What if they don't see what I see? What if they laugh at me instead of understanding? She nodded thoughtfully, considering her response. Art isn't just about creating something perfect. It's about sharing your story, raw and real. Jake glanced back at the canvas, bright and chaotic, a reflection of the storm inside him. Each swirl of color felt alive, whispering a narrative he had yet to fully embrace. He sighed deeply. Maybe I'm just not ready for this. At that moment, Helen placed her hand on his arm, grounding him. You are ready, Jake. You've always been ready. You just have to believe it, even if the voices in your mind tell you otherwise. Matt scoffed from the corner. You're going to regret this, you know. His eyes glinted, a mix of triumph and disdain. Real artists are in it for the love, not to play pretend at a community center. The words struck Jake like a physical blow. He felt heat surge through him, igniting a fire he didn't know was there. This isn't a game for me, Matt. I'm trying to find my voice. A silence enveloped the room. Jake could feel everyone, from the casual onlookers to fellow artists, holding their breath. Even the distant laughter faded, leaving only the thumping of his heart. I don't need your validation, Jake continued, his voice strong. This is about more than just winning some stupid contest. This is my life. Helen's eyes sparkled with pride as she watched him confront doubt and fear. Dozens of emotions played across her face: relief, support, joy.as. Jake stood there. He saw so many faces in the crowd. People he admired, some whom he envied. But they were here to bear witness to his struggle, and for the first time, it sank in that he didn't need to be perfect. He just had to be. Let us do this, he said, and the words felt like a key unlocking a door rather than a mere declaration of intent. He lifted his brush and dipped it into the vivid red paint. He began to paint over parts of the chaotic canvas, bold strokes that felt liberating. Each movement breathed life into his vulnerability, transforming fear into courage. The energy shifted in the room. Jake sensed that those around him felt his commitment resonating. Yet, as he painted, he couldn't shake the querying voice. Was this enough? Could he really pour his truth into this art and have it be seen, understood, appreciated? But Helen's gentle whispers brought him back. Keep going. You're creating something beautiful. With her encouragement entwined in every brushstroke, he was losing track of why he had hesitated so long. He lost himself in the rhythm of creation, the fears ebbing with each stroke of color. But just as he began to feel invincible, a loud commotion erupted from the entrance. "You want to believe who's here?" Someone shouted, and the crowd shifted, chattering with excitement. Jake's heart dropped. He couldn't bear to turn and face what or who awaited him outside the sanctuary of his art. Who would dare interrupt now? Could it be someone who would shatter the fragile confidence he was building? Or perhaps it was the very people he had avoided for so long, coming to see what he could create. As the noise grew louder, Jake found himself caught between two worlds: his fear and the vibrant energy of creativity. What awaited him beyond the door? Would it ignite the fire within him, or snuff it out before it could truly shine? A hush fell over the community center as the crowd shifted. Confusion and intrigue washed over Jake, his chest tightening with apprehension. He wanted to hide behind his canvas, but instead, he stood rooted to the spot, facing the unknown. From the entrance, a familiar voice cut through the murmur. "Jake, is that you?" It was Liz, an old friend from his childhood, her face aglow with anticipation. She stepped forward and, behind her, a group of familiar faces squeezed into the doorway, beaming with excitement. They had come to support him, their eyes sparkling with encouragement. And in that moment, everything shifted. The shadows that had loomed over him began to dissolve like fog under the morning sun. Voices filled the air. His friends were here, ready to cheer him on. They understood the journey, the struggles, the ups and downs. A spark ignited within him. They care, the thought rushed through his mind. This matters. Wow, Liz exclaimed, her eyes scanning the canvas. This is amazing, Jake. You're really putting yourself out there. Her enthusiasm wrapped around him like a warm hug. For the first time, he felt a sense of belonging that he had yearned for in the darkness of doubt. Helen watched, her heart swelling with pride. She stepped back, allowing her son to embrace this moment. This was not just about what happened next. It was about stepping into the light and reclaiming his narrative. "Yes," Jake shouted, his voice rising above the chatter. "I am. This is my art, my story." He beamed at the crowd, exhilaration picking him up. Each brushstroke became a part of him, symbols of transformation through the chaos. There's strength in vulnerability, and I'm done running away from it. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers ringing like music against the walls. Matt stood in the background, anger and disbelief etched on his face. "You think this is going to change anything? You're still a failure," he sneered, but his voice was lost in the waves of support emanating from the group. Helen turned, eyeing Matt pointedly. "You no longer have power here. We are embracing what we've been through, and that's not for you to dictate." Her confidence roared like a fireplace blazing in the dead of winter. As cheers continued, Jake took a deep breath, absorbing the moment. It surged within him, a pulse of hope and commotion, overshadowing every ounce of negativity. He walked confidently to his canvas, grabbing colors with conviction, pouring all the emotion he had bottled up. His brush flew, painting bright waves that danced across the canvas. Joyful, intricate forms emerged. The art breathed, reflecting his journey, this chaotic but beautiful mosaic of his life. The crowd watched in rapt attention. It felt electric. He could feel encouragement wrapping around him tightly. "I'm not done yet, but I'm ready to share my heart with you all," he announced, looking at the faces of friends old and new. They rallied closer, their eyes glistening, mouths open wide with admiration. Amidst this joyous whirlwind, the words flowing from him were clear and true. "We've all had dreams that feel unreachable, but that's what makes us human. Facing your fears takes guts, and today, I'm taking that leap." Tears of joy welled in Helen's eyes. They had fought incredible battles together. They had found the strength to stand before the storm, ready to fight for one another. This sweet, sweet victory was a celebration of love, a renewed bond formed in the crucible of challenge. Soon, the festival atmosphere enveloped them like a warm embrace, laughter soaring, families reuniting. All the worries from before seemed to dissipate into the pastel hues of Jake's canvas. the melody of hope intertwining organically with the joyful sounds of the fair day as the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over Maplewood. The crowd cheered for Jake. "We believe in you," they shouted, their voices melding into a symphony of support that filled his soul. Jake felt invincible. This was more than just a moment. The spark of transformation had ignited a fire within him. He looked over at Helen, who was wiping her cheeks, beaming back at him with a radiant smile reflecting pride that only a mother could have. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered, the gratitude spilling out from every corner of his heart. "For never giving up." "I could never," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "You're my son. I'll always be here, every step of the way." And as he faced the canvas, surrounded by the friends and community that had embraced him, Jake knew this was just the beginning. They would forge ahead, hand in hand, grounded in love, their hearts expansive like the autumn sky. Together, they would conquer every shadow. This was a story of redemption, of overcoming the intangible, a testament to love's unwavering power. Don't you want to be part of more stories like this? This is your moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm seriously. It makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. It matters to all of us.